These statements have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. The product discussed here is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Welcome to Science Talks with Isagenix, where different scientists, nutritionists, researchers, and experts break down the science behind Isagenix products and nutrition and health in general. My name is Taylor Malham, and I'm an Isagenix nutritionist here at Isagenix, and I am so excited about today's topic. We are going to be talking all about quality. I feel like our quality assurance practices are one of our foundational elements here at Isagenix that have drawn so many people in. It's one of the things that I know our product users are most passionate about. So we had to have a conversation all about quality. So to do so, we brought in the man in charge of it all. He is our Director of Global Quality Assurance, and man, I was just talking to the team. He has such a vast, robust career that I had to write down just a little bit about him. So here we go. So Scott Lyons, he's our Director of Global Quality, and he comes to Isagenix with degrees in dairy manufacturing, microbiology, and chemistry from South Dakota State University. He has a master's in food science from Arizona State University, and he has multiple certifications from the FDA, FSCPA, NSF, and more. He has over 35 years of experience in quality assurance, quality control, compliance, and process engineering. He's worked with some of the largest food manufacturing, dairy, cosmetic, nutritional supplement, and biotech companies in the world. Wow. So he has been with Isagenix for over 4 years now, and we couldn't be more honored to have him with us. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Taylor, very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm so excited to have you here. If we're talking about quality, of course, we got to have the head honcho when it comes to all of our quality assurance processes here,
Well,
right?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Scott, so a lot of our listeners may not be familiar with you or may not know you. I know you've done some tours here at Isagenix.
I have.
Yes, so you've got to meet some of our associates.
Absolutely. I love doing tours, love talking to folks about what Isagenix is all about.
We love hearing from you. So will you tell our listeners a little bit about your career and just why you chose to pursue quality assurance?
Yeah. It all goes back to college. I kind of struggle. I'll be honest. I struggled a little bit in college in terms of finding my fit. Started in engineering, and the math got me, and then pharmacy and the chemistry got me, and ultimately ended up in microbiology, and really kind of fell in love with microbiology. And it was tough finding a job with a micro degree, and I had buddies who were in the dairy manufacturing program. And the cool thing about dairy manufacturing at South Dakota State was they put you in internships. So I had the pleasure of working 2 summers for an AMPI plant, one making Baskin-Robbins ice cream, and then the second one spray drying whey protein concentrate in Texas. And then a 3rd summer I worked for Jackson's Ice Cream in Denver, where I worked in the freezer and drove a forklift, and came back to school, graduated, and I really had my choice of really any opportunity, and had a beautiful opportunity in Scottsdale coming out of college as a research scientist, and then that kind of was really what kicked off my career, not only into research and development, but operations, some compliance work, and really kind of landed in quality assurance with a frozen yogurt company in Dallas, Texas, a company called I Can't Believe It's Yogurt. And at the time, we made as much frozen yogurt as we possibly could, put it into franchise stores, and then moved on to Abbott Labs from there. So I've worked with a number of Fortune 500 companies, spent a long, long time with Abbott Labs, 18, 19 years, and did pretty much everything from quality engineering to production manufacturing, operations, compliance, managed the analytical labs. So
you did it all.
I've done it all. And then I ultimately ended up here at Isagenix back in 2018.
Yeah, and so what about quality do you love? Like as a consumer of finished products, why do you love just knowing all the product? Do you like knowing all the testing specifications and all the processes that go into creating these finished products?
What's most important to me, Taylor, is producing a product and being part of a process that the product I put on the market is 100% highest quality for the consumer. And I've kind of done that throughout my career. When I was with Daisy Brand, I'd take my wife into the grocery store and we'd reface the dairy cases. I'd pull all the sour cream up to the front so there wasn't openings, and just try and improve the customer experience, try and ultimately produce a product that meets customers' expectations, but not only meets customers' expectations, exceeds them. To get the customer to come back and buy your product, that's really what turns me on.
No, it's really, really cool, and it's really meaningful too. Talking with your family as consumers consuming these products, which is a really cool, I just can't imagine that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I take bars home to my son. My wife does the shakes. My wife does the collagen. I have friends that are...
Who doesn't do the collagen?
Who doesn't do the collagen? It's an amazing product. So, yeah, I mean, and kind of almost every stop, no matter where I was at, whether it be Daisy Brand, whether it be a snack food place, just different companies, you always work very, very hard, because if you're not willing to take the products home and provide them to your family, that tells you the story there. It's maybe time to move on. So, and I've never really landed at a spot that I'm not willing to do that. So you do enough research on the front end to say, hey, this is a place I really want to be. And Isagenix was absolutely every part of that.
Yes, let's get into Isagenix. So what drew you to Isagenix?
At the time I was working for a snack food company, and it was a 7-day operation, 24/7. Making caramel corn, granola, toasted or roasted nuts, repackaging candies, popcorn, caramel corn. It was around the clock, and I would get calls at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 in the morning. Hey, we ran out of cleaning chemicals. This product is just a multitude of different issues. And I live 2 miles south of Isagenix, and I feel very fortunate for that, because I drove by this beautiful building on my way to work every day, and it's like, I wonder what's going there. And when I saw Isagenix, the sign go up on the building, it's like, wow, I need to check into that. Check into it, and you find out that that's more than I ever imagined. So I always kind of had my eye on Isagenix. And I continued to check the website off and on, and ultimately there were 2 jobs that came up, I forget, November of 2018. And just put my application in thinking, I'd love to be a quality assurance manager at Isagenix. And that was actually one of the jobs. The people that I met when I interviewed were tremendous people. The culture, the excitement of the staff. I mean, I kind of met you, Taylor, early on.
Yeah.
You were in our actions area. At that time, it was called Icons. And just the youngness, the excitement, the intelligence, just the brain power that was here. It's like, wow, I'd love to be part of that.
And there's a whole science team here. I think that's something a lot of people don't understand too. And also, I feel like as somebody who's interested in quality, like quality is splashed all over our websites. Like it's something that we're really proud of here at Isagenix. So it's pretty cool. So here's a question for you. So in your opinion, why does or why should a company like Isagenix invest so heavily in our quality assurance practices?
Taylor, I really think that it's where all food companies desire to be. Every food company that's out there manufacturing products, whether it's food, dietary supplements, they really desire to have the highest quality. Are they capable of that? Some are, some aren't. But I really think the key point is providing a product to your customer that absolutely meets their requirements, their expectations, and brings them back a second time. And without quality built into your processes, really from start to finish, from all the way from procuring the raw materials to putting the finished product on the market, if each of those steps you don't pay attention to each of those steps, you just don't ultimately end up with a product that has the kind of quality that I expect, that my family would expect, and that our customer should expect.
Do you think all companies really like quality is something that's important to them, or is it finding a really good company where quality is a cornerstone?
I think all companies strive to have that mentality, whether it's actually truly built into the company culture, the mentality from the highest levels, the CEO all the way down. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I've been with companies where that hasn't been the culture of the company. I've been in situations where you're asked to do things and that you probably shouldn't be doing. And with Isagenix, absolutely 100% on board, up top. We produce a product that is consistent, a product that works. And I've got a product at home that my wife had to stop taking it because she had to get too many haircuts. I mean, she was in a situation with the collagen elixir where her hair was growing, and ultimately, Yeah, Isagenix, there's no better quality that I've been associated with in my 35 plus years of quality experience.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So let's talk about testing. So I personally get a lot of questions from our listeners about testing. Mm-hmm. So will you kind of talk about the testing standards here at Isagenix and kind of what here at Isagenix internally, we talk a lot about purity. We always want pure ingredients, pure products.
Yep.
Will you kind of talk about the standards we follow to ensure that purity?
Absolutely. So we work with a number of what we call 3PMs, which is third-party manufacturers, really across the globe. Many here in the United States. We also have a few in Mexico. We have a couple in Australia, and we're working on other countries where we'll be doing this manufacturing.
And a lot of those, like in Mexico and in Australia, they serve those communities, correct? And that's
serve
something
those markets, absolutely.
We're really excited about, right?
Absolutely. I'm getting ready to go to Celebration next week for the introduction of brand new shakes that are manufactured in Mexico at a manufacturer that we identified in Mexico really from the ground up. And we didn't know the manufacturer. We went there. We did questionnaires. We audited. We've spent time in Mexico. And to be honest with you, the product that Mexico blender is doing is of amazing quality and consistency. And I think the Mexico market is absolutely going to fall in love with these shakes we're doing there.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we are global.
Absolutely.
Okay, but back to the testing standards.
Okay, sorry, I got off track a little bit.
No, you said that, and I was like, no, that's a great point. That's something I know your team's working very hard on. But back to the testing and the purity. Will you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So we work very closely. Our quality team works very closely with our product development team to ultimately develop formulas, the raw materials that go into those formulas, and we really pay attention to the raw materials that come into the third-party manufacturers who ultimately make a finished product for us. We want to make sure that those raw materials come from the highest quality vendors that are produced in the highest quality plants. We will actually audit those plants, not only the raw material vendor plants, but we audit the 3PMs to ensure that they're following their SOPs, which are all really regulated by the Code of Federal Regulations and the FDA. So we're required to test the raw materials that come in, not only for purity, which includes heavy metals, which includes the analytes, which could be, say, proteins, carbs, fats, vitamins, and minerals in the different raw materials, because we want to make absolutely sure that the raw materials that the individual raw material suppliers are providing to our third-party manufacturers meet specification. Because there are vendors out there that will produce raw materials that could be all across the board. But we like to have consistent raw materials which ultimately contribute to the consistency of our finished product. So we'll test all the raw materials, whether it be in-house at our third-party manufacturer, or we'll sample the products and then send those out to outside contract labs. And all those labs that we use are all 17025 ISO certified. So all that testing has a very, very specific method. They're all standardized methods, standardized across AOAC, whether that's or AOAC, or USP or FDA BAM. Those are all regulated, standardized methods. And so the methods that those contract labs run, Taylor, are truly repeatable, consistent methods that give you true repeatable results.
And so you mentioned some of the things you test for, like the heavy metals, the protein, the carbs, all those things. How many different tests do the raw materials undergo? Like pesticides, will you kind of go into some of those?
Oh gosh.
What, it's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot. So take pesticides, for example. So we'll do what's called a pesticide screen, which could look for easily over 200 different pesticides. And when you think of pesticides, you think of your Roundup, which is actually a herbicide, but you think of the ant killer that's on the market. You think of the diazonons. You think of all this bad word stuff that you ultimately hear that kills bugs, that kills, weeds and things like that. We're looking for all of those in our raw materials. Not only our raw materials, but also our finished products. Because if they're in the raw materials, you surely don't want to use those raw materials because they ultimately end up in your finished products. So yeah, we run a pesticide screen, Taylor, which is easily over 200 different compounds that ultimately could be found via the pesticide screen.
And then all the heavy metals, microbial activity. I mean, there's a whole litany of different things that each raw material undergoes, right?
Yeah, all those ultimately feed into your overall finished product quality. But to talk about heavy metals a little bit, we look at the arsenics, we look at the lead, we look at the selenium, the magnesium for the minerals. But we want to make sure we have heavy metal standards that are lower than what the standards are. So we ensure that all the raw materials that come in are tested for all those heavy metals, that they're tested for the vitamins and minerals, and we strive to be under those standardized amounts to make sure that we're better than what ultimately could be on the market.
And you kind of mentioned this earlier when talking about our third party, or the third party manufacturers that we work with often. And so your team really does do auditing processes. I remember after you came back from the collagen elixir plant, you were telling me that it was like the cleanest, most beautiful manufacturing facility you had been to. Will you kind of speak a little bit to what it means to partner with Isagenix?
Absolutely. So, I feel very fortunate coming to Isagenix and being a part of the Isagenix team, because I really didn't have that luxury until I come to Isagenix. But coming to Isagenix, I remember our chief science officer, Dr. Josh Plant, who's my boss, called me out of the blue one day. This is really my second time with Isagenix. I came here in November of 2018. I left to an ice cream manufacturer, and then short time later, Dr. Plant called me and says, "Hey, Scott, would you be interested in coming back and doing some international auditing?" And I said, "Josh, I really only speak one language." He said, "Don't worry about it. We'll have translators with you." And it's like, I would love to do that. And he says, "You travel where you need to. You audit the manufacturers as you need to." And he says, "You got this." And you know what? It was such a pleasure to come back, such a pleasure to work for Josh. But really, to go into a new manufacturer who you've never met before, really we start with our questionnaires. We have a standardized questionnaire that is easily 100 to 200 questions that really gets down to the nitty-gritty of their quality systems within the plant. And we're really asking these questions to determine, do we want to move forward with these folks, or are our quality systems not in place, so we really don't? And so that's really where we start. Once we get the questionnaire back from, say, a given manufacturer, and it could be a manufacturer really in Mexico, Australia, Europe, Taiwan, and I'll get into a little bit about that. But once we get the questionnaire back, we make a decision and say, yeah, they're a good vendor. We'll schedule an audit. And so we and my team, myself, and the quality assurance team have done audits in Australia. We've done audits in Mexico. We've done audits in Germany, Taiwan. So we've been in some major companies within these countries to say yes or no. This is where Isagenix would like to manufacture their products. The company in Mexico is a tremendous blender in terms of the process that they have. It's really a process I had never seen before. It's really a very consistent, small batch process that ensures consistency of the finished product. We're working right now with a brand new company in Australia that is producing Australian shakes. And to hit on your point, a company in Taiwan, which was, like you said, one of the cleanest facilities I've ever been in my life. And I've been in easily 500 to 1,000 facilities over the course of my 35 years. And probably never been in such a beautiful facility, and they're one of our best manufacturers today, manufacturing the collagen, adaptogen, and nootropic for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of that's taken into account, from the questionnaire to the audit to the approval to the actual manufacturing, where quality will be on site for first batches produced to ensure those first batches meet our specs. It's really just an amazing process that tells you that we are in the right place to produce the high quality product that we desire
and
to.
And it's really just meeting our standards, the standards that you and your team have set up, those testing specifications that you said are better than some of the standards that are out there on the market. Just making sure that it meets our standards, not just general industry standards, right?
Yeah, general industry standards, whether it be for dietary supplements or food, could be quite lax. Our micro standards, our heavy metal standards, our requirements for pesticides and melamine and soy and these type of materials that sometimes you find in food products and dietary supplements out there are better than what a normal food manufacturer would have in place. Absolutely.
No, that's wonderful. Okay, so you mentioned this, you kind of mentioned this earlier, and I just want to hit on it again. So we don't just test our finished products, so we don't just test our raw materials, we test our finished products as well. Will you kind of go into why we do both those different forms of testing and kind of why that's important?
Sure. So all of our programs, regardless of the manufacturer where we're at, we ask them to test the raw materials as they come in the door to ensure that we're seeing a consistent supply. And that's important because if you're seeing raw materials that come in that maybe is a little bit higher in magnesium here, a little bit lower in selenium there, somewhere in the middle for calcium, micro counts are all over the board. And when I say micro, it could be just normal flora, which is considered an aerobic plate count or TPC. You want to make sure that those are very, very low because as you add the different raw materials to make the finished product, all of the raw materials ultimately contribute to each other to ultimately meet a finished product spec. So it's important that you test raw materials to know what you get on the front end.
To make sure they're pure.
To make sure they're pure, yep, from a micro standpoint, from a heavy metal standpoint, from a contaminant standpoint, which a lot of times you'll find soy, pesticides, herbicides, and things like that. And that's the last thing you want to do is use raw materials that would have those in them. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, as you use those raw materials, you're doing in-process testing to make sure that the blend meets spec or that the liquid prior to packaging meets spec. You always want to make sure that before you put it in the package that you have the pre-packaged product meeting a specification because you don't want to put all the time and the labor and the materials into something that you're going to get out to the end and it isn't going to meet spec. And then once we get it in the package, then we'll quarantine it, we'll put it on hold, and we'll test the finished product to make sure that it meets our finished product specs.
And another cool thing we do too that not a lot of companies do is we test our label claims as well, really going back to ensure that there is, that 24 grams of protein in there, that we are meeting those exact specifications for vitamins and minerals and all those different things as well. That's accurate, right?
Oh, absolutely. So, and really the label claim testing really starts with the formula development by our product development team. My quality assurance teams works with the product development team to take that formula. A label is generated from the formula. We take the label and we develop our specs from the label. So the label claims that you see on the label are actually our specification. So if it has a protein content of 22 grams of protein in, say, a given product, we'll test that to make sure that we meet that label claim. Our specs are set up to be 22 grams of protein, no more than, say, 24 grams of protein, no less than 22 grams of protein. And when we test the finished product, we meet those label claims to ensure that a customer, when they read the label, that they read it and see that there's 22 grams of protein, that's truly what they're getting. Because in reality, Taylor, as you walk through the grocery store and you pick up different products, there's folks that are maybe allergic or maybe they have intolerance to certain things. They're reading labels. And they matter. They matter. Sodium, calcium, different things. Folks are maybe on a low sodium diet. They can't choose maybe products with, say, high sodium content. So any customer that's choosing an Isagenix product, they can look at our label claims and they can be assured that that's truly what's in that product.
And that's really, I think it should just give everyone peace of mind. But okay, can I ask you another question I get?
Absolutely.
So a common question that I get is, why aren't we FDA approved? Will you kind of speak to that?
So yeah, and I get the same question here even when I do tours. Actually, most dietary supplements that you find on the market today, whether you go in GNC or Sprouts or Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, you see the small statement that says product not evaluated or approved by FDA. That's simply a dietary supplement moniker that goes with almost all dietary supplements because FDA is so busy in the food industry, pharmaceuticals, where they truly have put regulations in place to approve each of those products. They haven't gotten to that point with dietary supplements, so we fall into that category. But just because FDA doesn't evaluate and approve our products that we put on the market doesn't mean that FDA isn't involved in the process, because all of our third-party manufacturers are FDA audited. Every single one of those manufacturers, whether they're a food manufacturer, dietary supplement manufacturer, they're required to meet 21 CFR Part 111, 110, or 117. So Every single one of our manufacturers do see FDA on an annual basis. They are audited by FDA, investigated by FDA, and we're even governed by FDA from a registration standpoint. So we register, Isagenix is registered with FDA. I have a registration number, I have a unique facility identifier number, and then we work very closely with all of our 3PMs. That's actually a piece of the questionnaire. Are you FDA registered? When's the last time you've been audited? What did your last investigation show? Do you have any 483 observations? And we ask for that when we're there. And all of our vendors show that to us. They share the results with us. And I can promise you that we are truly following the FDA requirements as well as the Code of Federal Regulations.
I think it's just a confusion, because there's that moniker on everything. It's just the dietary supplement industry in general. They're just not. But we follow all of the FDA standards.
100%. Absolutely, yes.
Is there any just little quality tidbits or things about your team that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, like I said at the start, coming to Isagenix has been a true blessing in my life because I've been with, I look back now and it could easily be 8, 9, 10 different companies. And finding Isagenix so close to my home right here in beautiful Arizona has really been a blessing. Working with the quality team, and not only my quality team, but the product development team. And every single person that I've met in Isagenix is just a quality person that brings their A game to the table every single day. We just simply do things right.
And one cool thing I have to say about the quality team is your team, I feel like, has been here the longest. I've been here for over 8 years, and I used to sit next to the quality assurance team, so I always got to, chat with everybody. And those individuals have all been here longer than I have and are still here. So it's really cool just to have that consistency with all of our processes just carried throughout 10 plus years. Yeah,
we've got, I can't remember the last time somebody left.
No.
There's probably 3-4 people with 11, 12 years of experience. Yep. Our newest member, Tarvis, who's our senior quality assurance manager, he's been here a year and a half. But the cool thing about Tarvis is he comes from the dietary supplement industry. He actually came from one of our co-manufacturers. So he brings a lot of that experience, and it is just a really good group. And with what's happened in the world, Taylor, over the course of the last couple of years with COVID and working from home and all of the stuff that you hear about in the news, I haven't seen that with the quality team. They're just a really high-quality bunch of people that love what they do. And I think the key there is the products that we make. Places that I've been, if you're not making quality products, people just simply leave. They walk away from those kind of manufacturers that aren't doing the job right. And I don't think you'd find that my folks on the quality team would say that, you know what, I stay because we do the job right here. So it's just a great group of people to work with.
And it's a big job. Well, we just want to say thank you, Scott. And if you guys want to learn any more about the Isagenix no compromise commitment to quality, head on over to isagenixhealth.net. We have got so much information about the processes, the tests, the raw material testing, all of that kind of detailed out there for you as well. Thank you for being here, Scott, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Taylor.
These statements have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. The product discussed here is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.